the show where we talk about the biggest football games of the weekend, the biggest college football games of the weekend. Let me be specific. It's week 11. Can't believe the season is flying by. We're about to be in the month of November, which is really insane to say. Of course, Max again is joined by Bobby as always. Um, Here live. Thanks for tuning in with us. Got a lot to discuss for this week, but let's start with the bubbling discussion for the Heisman Trophy. And uh, I think it's a pretty good race right now, and it's a good time to start talking about it as some of our potential finalists start to shape. Um, Looking at the betting odds, um, I can give you a few names. I'm looking at DraftKings right now. Um, Dylan Gabriel, Travis Hunter tied at plus 260 odds on DraftKings. So tied for the first spot. Uh, Next is Ken Ward, plus 300, followed by Ashton Genty, plus 400. And then after that, you're getting into the higher odds. K Clement, plus 2,000. Carson Beck, plus 3,500. Shador Sanders, plus 4,000 to win the Heisman. And then you go on from there. Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart, Jalen Monroe, Nussmeyer, Aller, Will Howard, all those guys all have the same odds. Um, my guy Curtis Rourke from Indiana plus 10,000. If you really want to go for an outside shot, the Indiana QB making it from Canada, make it leading the Hoosiers to an undefeated record so far. Um, but Bobby, man, if you had to submit your Heisman ballot today, top four picks, the four guys that you're going to send to New York for the ceremony, who you picking?
In any particular order, or just four overall for New York?
In any particular order.
So because I think, okay, so first things first, I'm going to go with Dylan Gabriel, who I think best player. I feel like probably on the best team. Question about best player, I don't know, but Oregon is the best team of all of the Heisman, candidates for sure. So he has that perfect kind of blend of both. Next, I'm going to go Ashton Genty, who I think has been a phenomenon. His only weakness is he's, plays for Boise State, doesn't exactly get it done against the toughest opponents in college football on a week-to-week basis, but the numbers are undeniable. So Genty is my second. Third, I'm going to go Travis Hunter. To have the production he has had on both sides of the ball and how good Colorado has been this season, when you really, I think you and I both weren't big on him. I think a lot of people nationally weren't big on him, and they've just been really one of the stories of the season. It weirdly slept on, despite the fact that, last year we couldn't stop talking about them. They weren't that good, and now they're actually good, and I don't know, kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Then fourth is where it's tough. And this feels like a year where potentially it's maybe just three dudes. I mean, I couldn't, I don't know. That's really tough. I don't know where he's at on the list, but if you had to ask me, and he's not going to get invited to New York, but I personally would send Diego Pavia up there for what he's brought to Vanderbilt against some of the toughest competition, putting up numbers, and has just flipped that program around overnight with his attitude and production. I really like Pavia. He's not gonna be that high. He's not gonna get a trip to New York, but I think when you look back at 2024, he's going to be one of those central figures in the story, the fabric of the season. So that's my kind of dark horse, weird, kind of fun pick to round out my four.
Yeah, I love that. Um, those are good picks. I think you and I sort of agree on the sense of selecting somebody that puts a program on the map that otherwise would not be on the map, or is not usually on the map. And that takes a special player to be able to do something like that. Um, and for any time we're discussing Heisman or MVP in the NFL or MVP in the NBA, I always say that the candidates should either be best player, best team, or they should be somebody that is carrying a team or a program on their back that, again, otherwise would not be discussed. Um, and I would say the other criteria might be like um, a player that's just putting up cartoon numbers, no matter what the circumstances are. Like consistently every week, just dominating. No off games. No like, oh yeah, um, they were great against blank FCS school and great against the worst teams in their conference, but were bad against ranked teams or bad against the best, right? Like I think that consistency matters no matter what the stage is. And so for me, like that would definitely be my criteria when looking at again MVP Heisman. And my four that I'm going to send over based on that, completely agree. Right now, Dylan Gabriel, consistency, best player, best team, numbers, all that. No reason to argue against Dylan Gabriel being in the pool right now. Um, I think I would have to agree with Travis Hunter because you get playing two sides of the ball, barely taking any snaps off, the consistency, even though he's been injured a little bit, it hasn't been enough to really like knock him out of the race. Um, Hopefully he stays healthy the rest of the way. But in Colorado, being where they are, undeniable, and he's playing two positions at an elite level. So those two are definitely locks for me. Um, I think it gets a little bit stickier. I would say I would say Ashton Genty. I didn't want to. I don't like this argument with Ashton Genty about like his competition isn't great. But right now, at this point in the season, I'm having a hard time with him versus like Cam Ward, um, or Shador, um, or like I'm trying to think. Like there's just so many players that are like doing great every week, and it's against like just better competition than what Boise State plays, and that's not Ashton Dempsey's fault at all. I mean, he's really phenomenal, and there's other running backs in his conference that aren't playing as well as he is. So it's not like it's easy for everybody. He's just making it look easy. Um, but yeah, sorry for that. I'm kind of rambling here. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get to the point. I think I'm gonna go Gabriel.
You're good, man.
I'm gonna go Gabriel. I'm thinking it through and trying to talk. I'm gonna go Gabriel Hunter. I think I'm gonna put Ashton Genty in there. I think if he like if the numbers are out of this world at the end of the year, you just have to do it. Even if he doesn't win, you have to reward consistency and elite level of play, regardless of level of competition. I think. And then if we're talking about a quarterback like Shador versus like Cam Ward or the other guys, I'm probably going to lean Cam right now because of the stages he's played on, the adversity that he's overcome in some of these games, the way he's led that Miami team, and Miami is a one of those like prominent college football brands well, they haven't been Miami in a long time, and anybody that brings Miami back to like prominence deserves an award for something. So yeah, I'm seeing the Cam Ward to New York with Genty, Gabriel, and Hunter. That's my four.
Yeah, Ward probably is that fourth spot. That's a good four. I think that's a really good four. Somehow completely forgot about Miami. I don't know why. Maybe mainly because they've been playing ACC teams, and I just don't think about them that much. No offense to the Atlantic Coast Conference, Max, but yeah, no, Ward would definitely be fourth there.
Yeah. Yeah, but it'll be a fun discussion. This will thin out a little bit as we go along, of course, but it's a fun race right now. And actually, like, I'm glad as we go into November and we get to the point where there's only a few regular season games left. I'm glad we're still at the point where like running backs and other positions other than like quarterback have like a legitimate shot. Like it's always a nice year when there's other positions in the mix besides QB for this award. So definitely we'll be checking in on that for sure. Maybe kind of rehash this in a couple weeks. But Bobby, let's get to the games. We only have 3 this week. I try to keep the integrity of this show pure. I want to talk about the big games. I don't want to talk about like bad games just because big brands are playing in them. Like if the game isn't be actually good, I don't want to discuss it on the show. And this week, I can really only find 3 actually good games. A lot of the other ones are kind of like lopsided, but or they just got relegated to rapid fire because they just weren't compelling enough for a whole segment. But let's start with the biggest one of the weekend, obviously, is Ohio State and Penn State. They're right behind each other in the AP poll rankings. Ohio State 4, Penn State 3. Ohio State beat up on a lot of bad teams early in the year. We'll talk about that in a second. Lost a close one to Oregon. Almost got beat by Nebraska. But they stay in the top 4. Penn State, I would say their test was USC at the Coliseum, which was a game they probably shouldn't have struggled as much as they did. But you're going to have games where you let other teams sort of, get closer than they should be. And credit to Penn State for finishing that game strong. So now they've survived. They're undefeated. They're here, and this game is going to have a huge ripple effect in the Big Ten. We know that only one of these teams will come out of this and be able to go to Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship, unless something outrageous happens. And this isn't a scenario where like it could be a rematch, but probably not because you have other teams that you're going to see. So anyway, a huge opportunity for these 2 teams. They know that a Big Ten championship spot will go a long way because if you win that game, you get the automatic bid to the playoff. And both of these teams also just want a playoff spot, even if they don't win this game or don't get to the dance. So heavy stakes all around. Ohio State's favored by 3.5. This is going to be in Happy Valley. Total is 45.5. Will James Franklin get it done, Bobby?
I mean, I feel like we have this conversation every year. We had it a little bit with USC, but the Trojans aren't really that great. And to me, I don't want to delude myself into thinking he finally figures it out because I think Penn State is decent. I think they're good. I think they're probably going to make the playoff. But I just like the Buckeyes a lot more. I know, obviously really rough last week against Nebraska, who could be a bit feisty here and there. Obviously, you lose that game at Oregon. That was just a dogfight till the very end. I don't know. I just haven't seen enough weakness out of Ohio State, and I think Ryan Day really, really needs this one because if Day doesn't win, like his resume is just full of like beating up on teams he should beat up on, and then losses in big games that are close, but they're losses nonetheless. Penn State has been kind of big here and there, yeah, but this is the biggest they've been. This is a titanic matchup, and I think, to me, in a weird way, I think the pressure is more on Day than it is on Franklin, as I think with Penn State and Franklin and all that, you kind of know what you're going to get. But with Day, they have national championship aspirations every single season, and it gets a little bit dodgy if you drop another big one. You might be thinking about Ryan Day's job at the end of this one. So I don't think Franklin gets it done because he never gets it done. But I don't know if this is the one he figures it out. Might put the coach on the other sideline directly on the hot seat if he's not there already.
I agree with you there. I think you're right, Bobby. We do talk about this every year. This is, but I think the circumstances this year are different because the rules have changed a little bit. Well, two reasons. The rules have changed, and Michigan this year is not a threat. Penn State didn't have to play Michigan this year. So, and they also didn't have to play like Oregon or Indiana. The best big team they've played this year is Illinois, or maybe USC, whichever one you think is better, I guess. I don't
Definitely
know.
Illinois, I would think.
Illinois. Okay, yeah, Illinois. I mean, Illinois is better now. I think at the time USC was still like okay, but like yeah, Illinois is, in hindsight, is probably better than USC. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be the best team they play by far in Ohio State. But in the past, we know like Penn State really couldn't get over the hurdle of beating Michigan and Ohio State, or even Michigan State sometimes when they were good. And you also kind of like fell victim to being in the division with Michigan and Ohio State and Michigan State, and Penn State never can really overcome, getting out of their own division to even, play for a conference championship. They could never beat the top teams in their own conference in their own division. And we discussed the whole division thing off air, Bobby, and I think this is a worthwhile discussion for a couple weeks from now to get into further. But as it stands right now, this opportunity is new and different because all Penn State has to do is take care of business here, and then they do have a path to a Big Ten championship and a playoff. That's literally it. That's all they got. They don't have to worry about having a better record than anybody, than somebody else in the division. They win, and they control their own destiny pretty much.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
it's being free of of their previous Big Ten division has been huge for them, and even if they lose to Ohio State here, all you need is the Buckeyes to trip up again somewhere against Indiana or against their old foe Michigan, and you're in the Big Ten title against Oregon. So Penn State, I don't want to say this game is gravy, but it doesn't break your season if you lose it.
And not to mention they may get a playoff bid regardless. Like
yeah,
only losses to Ohio State, top 5 team in the country. Like you're like, okay, cool, we'll let you in. So I mean, right? Like, you just kind of have to. You still don't control your own destiny. because you're now kind of relying on Ohio State to lose again or Indiana to lose and have a worse common record than you, I guess. Um, if you're both sitting at one loss, but like it's it's still not that bad. You still kind of have your shot. Um, Observation about Ohio State, I think that people are talking about a little bit here. Ohio State, like I mentioned earlier, starts the season off beating up on some bad teams. Akron, Marshall, Michigan State, Iowa. Lose a close game to Oregon, lose beat Nebraska in a close game. In these games against better teams than Marshall and Akron, the Buckeyes have struggled. You look at the stats, um, the points per game have come down, the points allowed have gone up. Um, so, my question is which Ohio State, well, how good actually are they? Like, this is going to be another tough team they're going to play. Are they as good as the team we saw early in the year that were dominating those teams, or was that just the competition? Is Ohio State closer to what we saw against last week or against Oregon? Because it's going to matter in this game because they're playing another good team, right? So like, who is Ohio State actually?
Yeah, and I think it's too with these really really good teams. It's hard to call them, to focus on the games where they're, like sleepwalking. Are they bad or are they sleepwalking? I don't know. Um, in that tough competition that we've seen, the Buckeyes look pretty good. Um, but I think this Penn State game is going to be a massive test for them. They haven't been tested much all season. This back half is really going to show us what the Buckeyes are made of. Are you just a good team, or are you a national championship team? We haven't seen enough on paper to know one way or the other. And frankly, I think it's still a to be continued. I think they have all the ingredients of it, and that's the thing is they've never not had the ingredients. Ryan Day's teams have always been good, but when it comes to get the job done in the big moments, they never can figure it out. Um, and that's the thing that's so tricky to judge them on is when you don't play the big games, you don't know if they're going to figure it out. Um, so I don't know. I think it's up to the Buckeyes to prove it this weekend because the ingredients are there. But is the guy stirring the drink at the top? Ryan Day, is he up to the task? And if you lose at Happy Valley, I get it's a tough environment. You have to question that, and I think that's going to reveal whether or not Ohio State is a national title contender or not, regardless of if they make the playoff or not. Because I don't know, they just haven't shown that they can really win the big games because they can win the other ones, but I don't know. Not quite sure. I'm not sold on the Bucks yet.
You can give somebody the recipe, doesn't mean they know how to cook.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
and to your point, like Ohio State's biggest games up in the Ryan Day era have been Michigan, which for the most part they've lost. Uh, they had some losses to some good Oregon teams, including the one this year. Georgia a couple years ago. And now, because Michigan stinks, like the rivalry is the rivalry, but Michigan stinks. So this is the biggest game on your schedule. And you're absolutely right, Bobby, that recent history tells us that Ryan Day does not win these games. So I think that's such an interesting observation. But I'm taking Ohio State minus 3.5 because with all the evidence in front of me, and it's very good evidence, I trust them more than I trust James Franklin in this spot, even at
Yeah.
home.
Yep.
This
Because
is a do it and I will believe it. Nick, that literally is it. Prove me
I
wrong.
I agree. I agree. And to me, here's the thing with Ohio State is, Penn State normally is a big-ish game, but it's not the big game. And Michigan ain't that anymore. So, but at the same time, it's still Penn State. It's still James Franklin, and you still know they're going to botch it. So, with that being said, Ohio State 3.5 on the road in Happy Valley feels like the play. So I'm riding with you there.
Yeah. 75% of bettors are going with Ohio State in the points. 70% are taking the money line. Not a surprise. OSU 2-5 against the spread. Penn State 4-3 against the spread. So some interesting numbers there to look at. But yeah, I love Ohio State here. And it's just because of the coach, history. Drew Aller's been better. He's got himself in the Heisman conversation, um, and that's good for him. But you got to show me you can do it. And quite frankly, this is the stage, the opportunity. You're at home, like if not here, if not in this spot, win. That's I'll leave it there. That's the best thing I can say um, about that. Um, Shout out to MO watching. If Drew was healthy, OSU would be cooked. A good point about the health aspect to Drew Allen, I did forget about that. He did get banged up. That is a factor that will play into the game. Um, James Franklin, ML says James Franklin is as trustworthy as Trump heading to a trade meeting in Puerto Rico.
Oh man, that's funny.
That's hilarious. All right, man. No, but this is going to be a big one, and Penn State's got to get it done here. Okay, we got some more show to get through. Um, Again, Bobby and I both taking Ohio State in the points. This will be a noon kick again in Happy Valley. All right, next game. This is at night, Saturday, 8 p.m. Number 18, Pitt takes on number 20, SMU. SMU favored by 8.5 in Dallas. 58.5 is the spread. Kind of a underrated ACC matchup. Both of these teams have a path to Charlotte. And on that note, Bobby, what team do you have more faith in to get to the ACC title?
I mean, I'm going to put it this simply. It would be SMU because they don't have to play Clemson. Pitt has to play Clemson, and to me, that's the ultimate split. SMU doesn't have to play Clemson or Miami. They're just kind of gravy. This is their last tough spot left. Of course, it's going to be interesting as you and I have talked off stage. The ACC is headed for a 3-way tie train wreck situation if these undefeated teams keep winning. Pitt and SMU are two of the 4 undefeated ACC teams left in conference play. So this will be a big decider for it. But I feel like SMU, they've really figured something out with their quarterback situation. And yeah, no, I like the ponies here overall, but I like them. I like their odds to make Charlotte more than Pitt as well. So we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, SMU first year in the ACC, so and has looked dodgy here and there. They've been just so good since that BYU game, though. So I'm not sure yet, but I like SMU over Pitt right now.
Yeah, Pitt hasn't really been tested this year. SMU has. They beat a good Louisville team. They beat a really good Duke team last week in overtime. Lost to BYU. That was a tough game. So SMU being battle tested, having this game at home, and then you're absolutely right. Don't have to face Clemson. SMU's got a better path. Pitt will have Clemson at home, uh, much better than playing them on the road. But going into Louisville and Boston College after that will not be an easy ride for the Panthers. Um, Man, what an interesting year in Pennsylvania football. Like Penn State, great team, might have a shot. Pitt, undefeated, might have a shot. The Steelers, no one expected them to be good. They are. Uh, the Eagles are the Eagles. Kind of up and down, but not out of it yet. Like this is a crazy year for PA football. But anyway, sorry to get off track there.
You know what you could really cut, like really top it off. Pitt at Penn State playoff game. Happy Valley. I'm just saying that'd be just like as Pennsylvania as it gets. So
yeah, now that would be insane. Um, but yeah, I agree with you, Bobby. ACC title shot that definitely goes with SMU. Again, I believe they've been tested. They're equipped for some of these tougher games. Penn State hadn't really played anybody. They got to play Clemson. I think the path is a little bit brighter for SMU. I think that's a good call. Okay, our picks, both taking SMU. I just picked SMU straight up. I didn't want to mess with the spread, and I'm about to tell you why. Bobby, and it might not be hard to guess because Pitt has not played anybody this year. But can you guess Pitt's record against the spread?
I believe they're undefeated.
Undefeated against the spread. 7-0. Which is why I'm not touching it against this SMU team. But I think SMU gets the win for all the reasons I already said. But crazy to be undefeated against the spread. That's really good. And yeah, another good stat for Pitt, +7 turnover differential. That's really good. They take care of the ball. It's a good team. I think Pitt should still be in the conversation even if they lose this game. But I'm picking SMU to get the dub.
Yeah, Pitt is a damn feisty team. I'm with you. I think Pitt covers the spread just because I feel like they have a way of scrapping. SMU looked a little vulnerable last week and has had moments where games aren't as close or are closer than they should be. I don't think the Mustangs run away with this thing, but Pitt they're crafty enough to at least keep it close, if not win outright. So I think my play will be Pitt plus the 8.5. So I don't know if you're giving me 8.5 points with this just crafty ass Pitt team like that's undefeated against the spread, I'm going to take the points. So
yeah,
Panthers.
Yeah, Pitt's a good team. I think that's a good call. All right, last game we're going to talk about. Another ACC game. That's how you know it's a rough week. We're talking about 2 ACC games as the best games of the weekend, but it is what it is. This is a good game. I mean, Louisville kind of feels like that team that got a rough schedule this year. They just were a good team that had to play all the other good teams in the conference, and they haven't really been able to capitalize on any of those games, unfortunately. And they go into Death Valley, sort of one of the final chances for Clemson's season to be spoiled. They've played well since their one loss to open the season against Georgia. The competition has not been stout, but they've looked dominant each and every week, which has to be accounted for. And yeah, Louisville, just 3 losses, 3 really good teams, and they still got to play, of course, this game and then Pitt as well. So Louisville tough for Cardinals fans this year getting that brutal schedule. But anyway, is Louisville going to be able to play spoiler in this game?
I mean, Louisville is, I think, better than their record shows. I think they can be feisty. They've just had they've had a bad draw with that schedule. That was one of the things why they were so good last year, is that schedule was just set up perfectly for the Cardinals to make a run. This year, I just don't think they're on that level. And I got to say, we've come a long way from my take at the beginning of the season that my prediction of Dabo retiring, because he's got that shit. Sorry, he's got that thing right back in control. They've been steamrolling everybody in front of them, and I don't know. You're welcome, Clemson fans, for lighting a fire under his khakis, because they've been good, and I don't see Clemson. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. I think Louisville not playing spoiler on this one. So I'm pretty big on the Tigers here.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of sound like a broken record when I say this. But I mean, Clemson at home, man, they're just so automatic. Such a hard place to play, such a hard place to win. This game's also going to be at night. So Louisville is a good team. They're well coached. I think, they're not afraid to go to play in Clemson, but that crowd's going to be rowdy. They know what's at stake. Clemson fans, I think, should feel a little disrespected because no one is talking about their team whatsoever. Not even really in the CFP context. You don't really hear much about Clemson at all. 1 second, sorry.
It's all good. But no, I mean, I'm with you. It's weird that they've taken a back seat because this is a solid team, and I think some of it's the lack of marquee games, but no, they, I think they should have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because this is a program that not too long ago was competing for national titles, perennially in the playoff. So yeah, I think there definitely should be some little disrespect on that end.
Yeah, and Cade Klubnik, his season's going under the radar. We mentioned him earlier. He's got some Heisman odds, but I mean, he's having a great year. Has really this year sort of become the quarterback he was billed to be out of high school, or people thought he could be. And he's done it when they've needed it the most. So, yeah, I just don't see Louisville spoiling the game. If they can cover is another discussion. 11 points or 10.5, whichever you're kind of like looking at. These teams defensively, neither of them are really that great. Clemson allowing 348 yards a game. Louisville right behind them at 359. Clemson and Louisville also close in points allowed. Clemson allowing 23, Louisville allowing 24.6. So, I mean, maybe it's a backdoor situation. Clemson gets a nice lead. They keep Louisville at bay for a while and then just allow them to score. They break a little bit in the second half. But, yeah, Clemson wins outright to me. I don't think it's really going to be that tough.
Yep, I'm with you. I think Clemson. I think they covered as well. I see the Tigers out here trying to make statements. Everyone's on pins and needles about Tuesday, and we're all excited. We're all intrigued, stressing to see what happens on Tuesday, and we'll finally get the answer to what we've been waiting for all these months, and it'll be the first 12-team playoff, and Clemson wants to make a good impression on Tuesday. So. So I think they win big.
Yeah. All right. Rapid fire picks, and then we'll get to lock of the week. Yet another ACC game. A good Duke team. I think like Louisville, Duke has just fallen victim a little bit to their schedule. Kind of a surprise team though. Like no one thought they'd be quite this good. I don't think, but Duke has taken care of the bad teams, lost to some of the better teams in their conference, and an underrated storyline: Mario Cristobal returning to Miami. I'm sorry, Manny Diaz. Yeah, Mario Cristobal returned to Miami 2 years ago. Manny Diaz returning to Miami, the former head coach of the Hurricanes, coming back, looking for revenge against the team that he used to coach uh, down there. Um, Miami should not overlook Duke, but they're playing really well, have a lot in front of them. Really good quarterback, obviously, in Cam Ward. Um, Duke, I think, has kind of faltered against some of these better teams. I think Miami just has too much talent. If they kind of focus in, uh, come down from that high from beating their in-state rival in Florida State, they'll be fine. This will be an early kick, 12 p.m. I like Miami.
Yeah, outside of throttling Florida State, which you knew anytime your rival's down like that, you play them at home, you're going to step on their neck and just go intense on them. Outside of that, Miami has just kind of been, keeping it close with teams, playing with their food a bit. And Duke, to me, really one of the best stories of the season that not a lot of folks are talking about, with Mike Elko going to A&M, Riley Leonard going to Notre Dame, and they have done such a phenomenal job keeping that program together. You got to give credit to Malik Murphy. He's been slinging that thing. Incredible, great dual threat quarterback, worth the watch for sure. We don't pick against the spread here on these rapid fires, which is a bummer because I'd probably go Duke plus 20. But Miami's gonna get the win here. But I don't know. That line to me feels a little too big for a team that likes to keep things close. For two teams that like to keep things close, just in general. So I don't know. Duke overperforms, Miami underperforms. This just feels like this thing could be pretty tight, especially with that early kickoff, kind of sleepy out there in Miami Gardens. Maybe some students don't make the bus on the way up, that sort of thing. So, no tailgating. I don't know. I like Duke keeping it close. Miami gets the win.
Hey, Bobby, I mean, if you want to make that your lock, you can, man. You don't have to go for the 2 points, dude. You can give me a break if you want, but
I don't like it locky. I don't like it locky enough, but
I love it. All right, Oregon at Michigan. Interesting game. Oregon's obviously gonna have a tough road going to Ann Arbor. Michigan is obviously not a great team anymore this year, but still over 500. That crowd's going to be into it. It's going to be a big game. Michigan trying to derail Oregon's season a little bit. Number one team coming into the big house. That's a big deal, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But I think Oregon, way too much talent. They can protect the quarterback. Michigan, not enough offense with Davis Warren. Dylan Gabriel, Dylan Gabriel's last chance to impress Heisman people on a national stage. I'm taking the Ducks. Big.
Yeah. Yep. Also going with the Ducks here. I mean, it's teed up perfectly. Oregon versus a big brand. People still value Michigan big, even though they haven't been very good this year. Like it's just this is a time to make a big statement. And Dan Lanning is the type of guy who loves a big statement on a big stage. So I like Oregon in a rout here against Michigan. I think this thing could get ugly.
All right. Last rapid fire. A&M, top 10 team, playing very well. Is going to go to South Carolina, Wallace Bryce Stadium. We know the Cox are frisky. They've been frisky all year, especially when hosting good teams. Um, with the exception of Ole Miss, that was not a good game for them. But uh, LSU, they played well against. Obviously, um, went to Alabama and played a close game against them. Coming off of a big win in Norman, and and like I said before, with some of these other teams, South Carolina trying to derail Texas A&M a little bit, who is still alive for an SEC championship bid, and of course a CFP bid. Um, and A&M can't afford to slip up here. They have three very winnable games before they play Texas at the end of the year, and so it starts here in Columbia. I'm nervous about it. I'm not gonna lie. Mike Elko is a great coach. I think I still kind of get a little nervous about A&M, choking up. Maybe that's just Jimbo Fisher trauma. Um, this team definitely looks like a well coached and focused team, but I'm nervously taking A&M. They are only favored by 2.5. Makes me a little bit nervous, but I'll take the Aggies.
I mean, this just feels like a perfect upset scenario, doesn't it? Off a really emotional win against LSU, you're going on the road halfway across the country against a team that's off a bye, I might add, with South Carolina. And, even though that was a big win against LSU, you still really don't know who your quarterback is. You pull Wegman, put out Marcel Reed. You kind of played that card once this year. Hard to play it again. But to me, I feel like Mike Elko is a good enough coach. He has the right mindset to do the week by week, not too high, not too low. And the Aggies have just a phenomenal, their personnel is good. So I'm with you. I'm reluctantly going A&M. This is like the opposite of a lock. It's like a walk of the week. Like, you walk away from betting this one. Don't do it. Just watch the game. But I don't know. Carolina, like you said, you use the term frisky a lot. I think this is as frisky as a team gets, and you really never know what you're going to get with them. Probably the best damn 4-3 team in the country, maybe ever. So I like A&M to win, but keep an eye on Carolina.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to lock of the week. Man, I'm having a tough season. Bobby, way out in front with 12 points. I'm at 4. Not out of the race yet, but I gotta go on a run here and hope Bobby is cold. Last week, you absolutely nailed Alabama minus 13.5. Shut out Missouri. Embarrassing performance by the Tigers. Um, and that was an easy win for you. Um, Obviously, Alabama won that game. That final score, what was that? It was a shutout, right? It was
Yep.
34-0. Yeah, so Alabama covered and covered well. Um, all right, I had Illinois covering against Oregon. I think I was thinking about a backdoor cover for that, but it didn't never happened. Of course, Oregon dominated the Fighting Illini, and so I did not get plus 21. So really tough break there, which is why for this one I'm taking the layup, um, taking the evidence that's in front of me. And if I lose this one, I'll be okay because I had a lot of evidence as to why this one would work. All right, it's Pitt plus 8.5. I would also take this if it was 7.5, um, which is what I'm seeing on some sites. But I'll take it at 8.5, whatever. Give me some wiggle room there. We already talked about it earlier in the show. Pitt 7-0 against the spread. Um, SMU has played tougher opponents close. Every game against an opponent that was good, it was a close game within 7. Um, so I'm banking on that, banking on those two things, and um, tailing the 80% of bets that are on Pitt to cover that spread. So that's my lock. Like I said, I got a lot of evidence for that. If I lose, I lose, but I feel good about that.
Yep. I got a lot of evidence for my lock too. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Ohio State minus 3.5 on the road. I don't believe in James Franklin one bit. I don't care if it's a wideout. I don't care about any of that. I just know what James Franklin does against Ohio State, and that is disappoint. And I think the Buckeyes, they had their wake up call last week. I think they come out firing and get a big win, resounding win, and cover the 3.5.
Yeah, good pick. Take the better team in the history. I feel it. Well, that's our locks and that's our show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Cannot wait for next week's show because we're gonna have CFP to talk about, and obviously some good games as well. So come right back. Thank you for everyone who did tune in. That is extremely appreciated. We do appreciate it. If you're watching this later, like us, subscribe us. Sorry, like us, subscribe to the channel. Help us out. We appreciate it. Until next week, I'm Max. That's Bobby. We'll see you next time. Nice job, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate it.